Hello and welcome to my Q&A number 2. Right, first one from Zofo2112. If the Cornell amp was the only one you would keep if you have to have only one, what guitar would be the only one? Well, that's easy. This Gibson Les Paul R9. I've always idolised Gibson Les Pauls ever since I heard Don Felder rip into that solo on Hotel California. And of course Eric Clapton and the Blues Breakers, and then Gary Moore, and then Mark Knopfler playing his Les Paul. So I had to have one, so in the year 2000 I bought a Gibson Les Paul Standard, and the thing was amazing, it rocked. And I played it in my band for 15 years, and all the band members loved it and the audience loved it, and allowed me to live out my childhood dreams on stage. But then in 2011 my dad bought this, and then in 2017 my YouTube channel started, and he knew I would love it even more than he did, and he knew I would play it a hell of a lot more than he was playing it. To put it into context, you might know my dad from a couple of videos, but he's a Beatles guy. He loves the Beatles and chords and harmonies, and he's mainly a singer and guitarist who plays chords and accompanies himself. So he knew this guitar would have a life, so I'm eternally grateful that he said, "Paul, just you have it." And it has had a life, and it's just, I've bonded with it in an incredible way. I just love it. It's slightly lighter than the one I had. The tone is slightly woodier, like you can tell it's made of nice wood. Maybe that's just in my head, but I really felt there was an airiness to the tone of this one compared to my one. And so I have bonded with this big time. So that's the answer to the question. This is my number 1. Question number 2. Paul, thanks for your efforts. I'm sure a beginner intermediate question isn't exactly first choice for great players, but I'm just wondering how you learn or learned different songs and techniques. Well, Padovan, it's all ears for me. When I learned in 1980 or 1981 to play a few chords, from then on I was kind of left, not on my own, but because my dad was not really a lead player, we stumbled together through Hideaway and things like that from Eric Clapton, but generally I was left to go and figured out how to be a lead player. So it was all ears and a tape recorder. And I was quite good at developing, I don't know if that developed my ear or if I was already a musical person, but when you hear Clapton go do-doodle-doo, do-doodle-doo, diddle-doo-doo, I thought that can't be that difficult. And then of course you try it in different positions on the neck and you realise there's a massive difference in the sound. That has a very different sound to this. So you discover that, oh, he plays it there and not there. And some people play it there and not there, and you can always tell where somebody's playing on the neck, generally. So my ear became really good at doing that. In Hotel California, I picked a lot of that up. And so that's the answer to the question. And then of course, in the early 80s, mid 80s, when these VHS videotapes came out, we could finally, guys of my age, could finally use their eyes just to check that when Albert Lee plays Country Boy, how is he actually playing it? And you could see and get a bit of validation, or in my case, the Arlen Roth tapes, where you could hear him say, I put my fingers here. I'm like, thank goodness, because that's what I put my fingers to for that, or whatever. So ears and a little bit of eyes. Hope that answers your question. I don't read tabs, I wouldn't know where to begin. I don't read music, and I don't approach things in a theory way. Michael Hoffer. I have 2 questions for your viewers' comments bin. First, is every video you do a first take? Oh my goodness. And second, I never saw you play an acoustic guitar. Do you have one? Right. We'll do the first question first. It's getting a bit dark, isn't it? No. I'm ashamed to say it takes me an extraordinarily long time to get a take down. I don't know if it's just because I'm a perfectionist. I guess it is, but I have a standard, and the more subscribers I get and the more nice comments I get, the higher the standard is or remains. And so if I do anything that's a bit sloppy, delete. I realise I'm creating a stick for my own back. But I mean, even the opening jam to this, I'm not even going to tell you how many takes that was. And it was fine on all of the takes, but every bit you do, you think, oh, I could do that bit better, or I did that bit better 2 minutes ago. And so you get yourself into this loop. So that's just me obviously got a problem. But yeah, I would actually, I'm insecure about that. I really am insecure about that. If I was to get a job as a session player or something, I just wouldn't, because I'd be a nightmare. Everybody would be wanting to go home and I'd be, can I just do my take one more time? So I'm embarrassed to say I take many, many takes. Do I have an acoustic? What do we think? It's a Gibby. If I could take this off. It's a Gibson J185, and this particular one's actually quite rare. It has a koa back and sides, and it's quite gorgeous. What do you think? Lovely. Where's my plectrum? So yes, I'm trying to find a plectrum. Oh, there it is. It's gorgeous. So that's my acoustic. Love it. It does take a battery. I'm going to have to put a battery in it and play it for everybody on the channel. Anyway, that's my acoustic. Next one from J Wells. Paul, your playing has always astounded me. You play with such feel and emotion that Satriani and Vi would turn and go back to the drawing board. Well, thank you very much for saying that. but both these guys could kick my ass all around the block twice. But I really appreciate the sentiment. But my questions are, what are your favourite strings, and how do you come about your note choices? My favourite strings, that's easy. I use D'Addario or D'Addario and Ernie Ball. I can't tell the difference, so there you go. But Gauge 11 is my thing. Despite recent experiments with strings, I always seem to come back to Gauge 11 up to about 48, 49. Yeah, although my Telecaster, I've got gauge 10s on that because everybody says, and I probably agree, that a slightly heavier set for a Gibson scale length and maybe slightly lighter for a Fender scale length. It's taken me many years to realise that because my Telecaster was always a struggle, but I'm very much enjoying gauge 10 on the Telecaster. So what would that be, 10 to 46 maybe? Something like that. 10, 13, 17 on the Telecaster and 11, 14, 18 on these unwound strings on the Gibsons. Now, note choices. This is interesting. I'm on the constant search for note choices and the order of my notes. In terms of order, we're all used to doing this. But nobody does this. I do, because I work very hard on trying to invent new orders. Note choices, or I'll do I spend lots of time thinking up orders like that, unintuitive orders of notes. I steal a hell of a lot as well. But for example, in the intro, I came up with this. That's weird. So I spend loads of my noodling time coming up with shit like that. But as I say, I steal as well, so I'll hear Robin Ford do things like and so I'll learn all these wee things. Where are they? What's he doing? And of course, like, I just spend lots of time with that stuff because that's what elevates you and that's what makes you interesting. So I steal, I create, I noodle, and sometimes I just completely wildly experiment. But I'm often recording myself, so when I play 95% crap and then I come out with something, I think, what is that? I can press stop and rewind and think, that's good, and I'll steal that wee bit. That's what I do. So that's that. Hope that helps. Next one is from Bertram. You'll see that he says, how did you learn to play guitar? Now, since I've already addressed that, let me address how I learn now, how I get better. So we know I learn by ear, and we know that now we've got YouTube, I learn by eyes as well. And of course YouTube, you can slow it down. I didn't know this till a couple of years ago. The recog thing, you can slow it down and so on. But here's how I get better. When I was a kid, you learn Hotel California and you learn Sunshine of Your Love, but they're isolated things. Smoke on the Water, whatever. You learn your thing and it's isolated, and you probably play it in the key that the guy in the solo on the record plays it. But what I do is everything is dragged back to A, because A is where I live. I venture out of A, but A is the key that I find gives me that sense of peace. I'm at home in A and I know where everything is. And by learning Hotel California in B minor, like the record, but then transposing it to A, and learning Sunshine of Your Love in D, but bringing it back to A, and learning Hideaway by Eric Clapton in E, but dragging it back to A, you learn, not only do you get very good at A, but you start to learn where all the licks are in relation to each other. And that's important. Or else they will forever remain just isolated things. I learned that one up there, and then this song's brilliant, I learned it over there, and then I love when Richie Blackmore does that one down there. No, bring it into your key and then venture out, because what the result of that is you get really good at knowing how it all comes together. So that's how you get really good at one key, and then if you're good at one key, well then you can branch out of that. Another one Tom Bukovac does in B minor, I did it, he goes, he does it all with his thumb. I'm not got the thumbs like that, so I have to, you notice in the intro I was going, I have to find my way of doing the Tom Bukovac lick. But now I've stole it and it's in my little thing. So that's how I get better. I steal and drag it into A, and then I branch out again. Last question. This is a doozy. This is a doozy. I'm going to have to, right, where is it? Derek Johnson. He calls me a big yin. How you doing, Derek? Right, so my question for the next Q&A. Oh yeah, if you were a manager putting a band together and had the choice of picking 2 guitarists, one past and one present, to join your group, what 2 would you pick to complement each other, and what guitar would you have them play? And he would put Dave Gilmour and Gary Moore together. Ooh! Right, I'm going to probably cut this video here because I'm going to have to really good think about this, right? So, cut. I would like to hear Danny Gatton play his Telecaster with Jeff Beck, and Jeff would be on a Strat, and the genre would be quite a complex song mixed with some country and blues influence, and just let the 2 of them run wild. I think that would be really interesting. Jeff Beck with his tremolo arm, Danny Gatton running about that Telecaster. That would be interesting. That's blown my mind actually, just thinking that what they would do together. What a great question, what a great question. Dave Gilmour and Gary Moore. That's very good, Derek, because I'm going to make enemies here. Dave Gilmour is not one of my guys, I don't get him at all. But that's like somebody saying to me, Martin Knopfler, I don't really get him. I'm like, what? So I can understand. But I've never got Dave Gilmour, but I accept that people think he's melodic and put soul and taste into his playing. And Gary Moore comes out on stage like Mike Tyson's early career, guns blazing, blasting everybody off the stage with ferocious technique. And Dave Gilmour's not that guy. So what a great combination. I think you win this one, Derek. I think Dave Gilmour, Gary Moore, that would be very interesting. So that was that. Thank you, Derek. Right, come on, it's getting late. Thank you very much for joining me. I will continue this Q&A. I like it. And thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next vid. Bye for now.